Welcome to a session on parenting, and this is Satya, a mentor at IWS, taking this session. And just to let you know, I thought of putting together a session for the parents at the end of this year's annual outbound with children from Gurgaon and Ludhiana, when we went for our exciting outbound into the Himalayas. And if you look at some of these, our children are growing up very fast, and look at this young man balancing this on this wonderful, very challenging obstacle at the venue where we had a 3-day outbound. And when I was observing these children closely over the period of those 3 days, I realized that maybe I need to spend some time and evolve some parenting suggestions to all of us in the IWS ecosystem, and maybe even all the parents at large, all the parents maybe in our neighborhood in India, because as we know, we all become parents one day and we realize that we have become one without too much of training or input. So let's see if this 10-minute session helps you in any manner. We went on a 3-day outbound, and the idea was to let children explore in the wilderness and go out, do very challenging stuff. And while it is an outbound, it actually is a deeply inbound journey. Children get an opportunity to learn a lot about themselves, about their own habits, about looking at their peers and friends in a very different context than what they do in the school. A lot of time to reflect, a lot of time to take feedback in an environment that's perhaps very conducive and open to feedback. So it was all kinds of the stuff that we were doing, which makes the journey far more inbound, while physically it's an outbound in the hills next to the river and things like that. Look at this young man, Ankur, who was not even coming for the outbound because family was worried due to his fractured wrist, finger rather. But he was fine when he came and 3 days and had a lot of great time. So many a time we underestimate our children's abilities to handle the challenges that come our way. I'm going to cover this particular session under 3 very, very simple headlines. One of them is life skills. Okay? As a school or even at home, our job is not so much to drill knowledge into the holes in their heads. Somehow that's what education is getting reduced to. That's not our job. If you ask me, the job is to give them life skills, because a child who's in grade 1 today is going to be working 20 years from now and will continue to work 50 years from now. So what do we want? What do we want to give to a child as a school or as a parent? Our job is to make them learn the skill of skilling oneself. It is as simple as that. And the skilling is necessary because the world is changing, and the child must learn how to reskill myself. And when I bring it down to very simple things, I'm saying that, do we teach our children the skills of living on the streets, living in a real world, And many a time we are subsidizing them. For instance, I'm giving you a very, very simple prescription. Does your child wash his or her own inner garments in order to make sure that it doesn't look any less elegant? I wrote it as IG, but many a time I find that in our household the children aren't even washing their own plates or cups or glasses or making their own beds. Kindly make sure that you do this as a part of their everyday routine. Are you as a parent spending 15 minutes with your child, telling him or her a bedtime story that he or she is going to remember 20 years from now? And this will in her own wake bring things like morals, values, the challenges that you might have faced in your childhood and you want to relay to the next generation. I think this is extremely important for you to spend time in. We live in a world where English is inescapable and our children will speak फर्राटेदार अंग्रेजी बोलेंगे, आप बिल्कुल चिंता ना करें. लेकिन क्या are your children learning the mother tongue at home? I'm meeting far too many parents who are saying that we don't speak mother tongue at home because we want them to pick up English. If he picks up English and he doesn't pick up the Tamil or the Bangla or even Punjabi, when the child is he goes back to his cousins and is not able to speak, that also is going to have its own kind of inadequacy. And from a conceptual standpoint, children are equipped to learn as many as 6 to 8 languages before the age of 10. And we need to maximize on this natural gift that is there. Are you making the child responsible for small outcomes? Can you give a child the 50 rupee note and ask him to go to the grocer? When you go to the grocer or when you go to some place, are you making the child responsible to buy something and then complete the transaction and report the outcome to you? Please don't shield the child. Let this happen. How about teaching children value for money? Does the child know what is the money you spent on a bottle of milk when you were kids? Does your child know that it took a huge amount of effort and initiative for the family to come up to where the family is now? Or are we letting the child get away with a feeling of entitlement to all that he or she asks? Kindly do teach this as an integral part of life skills. What about simple things like punctuality? Please practice your child the worth of time. There is only one thing common between the richest man and the poorest man: time. The most successful person and the least successful person, the happiest person and the saddest person. The only thing that is common between both of them and exactly the same is the amount of time per day. Lastly, we know this. I don't see many parents doing this. Health is wealth. Okay? Does the child do simple things like skips, running, some exercises? You have to bring this as part of your family's daily routine. Otherwise, we'll fail in the longer game. If you have everything else but no health, there's no point. Just a picture of how meditation was part of our daily routine. This is the time when the child reflects. This is the time when the child gets to understand other spiritual perspectives, spiritual outlooks than his or her own. Sarvadharma Prarthana, this is called, that we're doing. The Thanksgiving that the kids did at the end of the camp to all the bhaiyas who were with us for all those 3 days. It looked very, very rich and nice, and they loved and said that your kids are extremely balanced and emotionally rich in their outlook. Let me come to the second important part, values. See, the world changes, the technology will change, the era will change, the economics will change, everything will change over the next 20 years, over the next 100 years. But some fundamental values are the only things that are going to remain the same. How are we equipping our children with the eternal values of good life, effective life? Is very important. Greeting elders, touching the feet of grandparents at home, doing some meditation. This SFP stands for self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay? We need to teach our children, I can do it. Most of the times our education system is constantly putting a question mark, can I? And the scripting is very important to be tutored for the children. How about etiquette, politeness? Can a 14-year-old boy in your school show the, let's say, the right mental and emotional approach to open the door for a girl to walk ahead of him? It could be called chivalrous when he grows up, okay? But for us, it's a very simple way of teaching. How do you respect women? And we need to do it. How do you respect your fellow boys? It could be seniors. It could be taking care of your juniors in the junior section when you are walking through that section. Can we teach our children to be humble in a very genuine way? How do we teach our children to hold others' feelings, empathy, and appreciating the other person's context? Of course, we do wonderful practice of QCT. How do we make QCT possible at home between the mom, dad, brother, sister, and self? Okay, some of the 4 things that you as a parent can inculcate in your children by bringing it up and bringing it into focus very often. Lastly, just a couple of minutes, life or genius is 99% perspiration. You know that. It's just 1% inspiration. And perspiration has to translate into some rhythm, everyday routine. If your child is in grade 4, can you make sure that he's spending 90 minutes? It could even be 60 minutes if your child is in grade 3 or below. But can you make sure that there is a study routine which includes subjects and also these 4, okay? Which is listen, speak, read, and write. Kindly make sure that there is a good balance between all these 4, and then you do the subjects. Maths and science and social studies and English, etc. When I say newspaper, what I mean is how do we enhance the awareness, the worldly awareness of our children? So, a newspaper and an appropriate parts of the newspaper or the appropriate magazines all make sense for you to inculcate, but kindly make sure that there is a 15-minute time that your child spends reading the newspaper or a magazine or anything that enhances the awareness. This is a time for you to teach, let's say, who's the president, what about the countries, what about the geographies, what are the inventions happening. It could be anything. And some of these could also go back and connect with your bedtime stories or your own discussions with your child. Let the child bring it to you, spend some time, and make sure that you help in enhancing the appreciation that awareness is important. That, in short, is the end of the session. We are talking about helping our children, scale the heights that they are capable of. And this is the Panchmudiya peak that they climbed, and this is at 7,000 feet. And if we focus on very simple things on a day-to-day basis, our children will end up getting to the heights that they can get to. Thank you very much. My email is this, as you all know, and I'm very happy to be responding to any question on this. This will be available to you on your emails and also on our website. You can have fun parenting and add a couple of tidbits from here to make sure it gets better for you. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.